Listen to me. If there was a wise man who would ever think of this, they would say in order to be superior to the man, you've got to be the man. For I am the man himself.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think it's time we finally start to have this talk. We need to have this talk about a man who was once running the best wrestling show on the planet. Was once running a wrestling company that, to me, gave me hope that there was good wrestling out there when Vince McMahon was still in charge of WWE, and he was just picking our brains, insulting our intelligence left and right, just out there, just being a douche to his fans, not caring in the world. All he cared about was if he got his money. That's all he cared about. He didn't want to call it professional wrestling. He just wanted it. He basically was just having people go out there to have fun. Go out there to satisfy him. It was a show written for him. He would punish superstars for no reason whatsoever on camera to embarrass them. He would basically hold them hostage to, as far as holding off their contracts, and then of course releasing him when he felt it was right, not when he felt it was right for them. Again, he didn't care about anyone else but himself. And right now, I did watch episode 6, the final episode of the Vince McMahon docuseries last night. I do want to watch it again, though, because I was watching it late at night. I was kind of tired. Felt like I needed to get, my gist of a couple of things that happened in that episode. But I rewatched it before I do review that last episode. But as I'm watching it, and of course, like I said, I'm a late bloomer wrestling fan. I wasn't watching it in the 90s while I was too young, of course. Or in the 2000s. I didn't start watching wrestling until 2013. So trying to figure out when Vince became the scumbag he was. Yes, he is a scumbag, Bruce Pritchard. I'm sorry, I'm going to have a rant about him when I get to episode 6. Because I can't stand Bruce Pritchard. I can't stand the guy, especially after his after what he said, how he dissed on people, and towards the end of the documentary. I can't stand Bruce Pritchard whatsoever. But anyways, we'll talk about Bruce Pritchard in episode 6, whenever I do get to that. But as I was watching this documentary, and I seen how Vince, was in the steroid trial, which again, I think was not his fault. I started seeing how he got a big ego so quickly. And how he, started cracking when, because for a while, he was the one, when he took over, he really skyrocketed, what he had on the table. But then the moment things started getting bad, when competition started coming up, when cracks started being formed, when other issues came up, Vince crumbled. He crumbled, and yes, I would say, he immediately started insulting fans, but he started making a bad image out of himself. He started proving how much of a ruthless businessman and just an asshole he can be. And they try to convince us in there that Vince McMahon is not the same as the character of Vince McMahon. Cut me a break. Yes, there's people out there like the Rikishis, like the McFoleys, the John Cenas, the Triple H's, all of them who would say stuff like, they wouldn't be where they are in their careers without Vince McMahon. Yes, I can 100% agree with that. I can 100% agree that I wouldn't be here making this video today if it wasn't for the success of Vince McMahon. But we also just gotta accept that he is a selfish scumbag stuck in his own ways. Yes, he had a tough childhood. I do agree with that. But still, he's still selfish. He doesn't care about the fans. And worse, he would half-ass his shows, make content that was obviously directing his word toward fans. And that's what pissed me off about Vince the most. But as I'm watching all this, I soon start thinking to myself, why does this look familiar to me? Besides the fact that, again, it was Vince just crumbling. And it started to make me think, this is reminding me, especially like when things started getting bad for the company, when more competition came in. Like, we could say, like, around 2022, when Triple H took over creative after Vince McMahon retired the first time, that's when AEW started to go downhill. With that, with Brawl out, and like all other things that just formed more and more cracks in the perfect world at the time of AEW. When I saw everything that when Vince McMahon started to lose his mind, the first person I thought of is Tony Khan. What Tony Khan has gone through the last 2 years, unfortunately, is reminding me of Vince McMahon when he first started going downhill, when I first saw that in the Docuseries. Now, there's still one difference to me that saves Tony from, to me, fully looking at him like Vince McMahon. He's not, well, there's two things actually. One, Tony loves wrestling. He doesn't love sports entertainment. When Vince McMahon took over the company in the 1980s, he took it and tried to adapt it with the current culture with like cable television and other forms of entertainment. Tony, that's one thing I don't think Tony Khan will, embrace. He is a wrestling fan. So that's one thing to me that saves me from, losing respect for him like a Vince McMahon. Well, that and plus, a third thing too is he's not as disgusting as Vince McMahon is, has been accused of course. Like I said, accused of because he hasn't been proven innocent or guilty yet with these accusations. I still think that I can believe Vince McMahon's done what he's been accused of, but again, I can't say he's guilty because he hasn't been proven guilty. I don't think Tony's ever going to go down that path either. And of course also, Tony does not try to insult the audience. He doesn't. I don't see him doing things that makes it feel like that he's dissing on the fans. Although he said stuff like, I book my shows for the sickos. Basically, like, the people he knows are going to watch the shows. And it's not that he's lazy. I mean, yes, he has a lot of lazy booking, but he's put a ton on his plate the past few years with Ring of Honor involved as well, which he has got to let go of Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor constantly being merged with AEW's television has been another factor with killing the product. He's relying on a lot of these outside stars to come in, or relying on other brands' championships for his shows that they're feeling more important than his own titles, his own shows. But then, like I said too, he's gotten to a point now where he has so much on his plate that he's even admitted to his company, we're not doing long-term story anymore. We're doing week-to-week booking. Who else did week-to-week booking? This guy right here. Who else would just throw shit on the wall and see what stuck? This guy here. Who else would just overexpose superstars? This guy right here. Who would tell stories that make absolutely no sense? This guy right here. Prime example. Recently, Bryan Danielson's title reign. He had a match with Nigel McGuinness at Grand Slam. They were doing that the same night that he was supposed to fight Darby Allin. And they pulled that match, saying that Bryan may not be cleared, just for a few minutes later for Nigel McGuinness to challenge him for a title match. Huh? Like, he's not fit. He's He's storyline-wise not healthy to wrestle. He's not. Like, there's that and other things. Like, again, why is Jon Moxley trying to terrorize AEW with the rest of BCC? Or whatever their name is. Which we all know is leading to Shane McMahon eventually coming in. But they've teased the hell out of it so much for so long. It's like, just bring him in already. Who else would do that? Vince McMahon. Who else also? So recently, the Lucha Bros were supposed to leave the company recently. But then Tony Khan added on injury time to their contracts. I think one is a free agent, but the other one has another 9 months left because of their injury time out of the contracts. Yeah, dick move right there too. Who was the one that also would do that to talent as well? Vince McMahon. So, yes, Tony Khan has developed an ego, yes. But when things got bad, instead of handling them like a boss, he just went nuts. He doesn't want to admit there's a problem. Everything's fine. Like, for crying out loud, he is one of the worst people I've seen in media. He gets asked a question, he tries to spin it into something else to cover up, what they did. Like, what? He's something about the Elite or something like that. And he starts talking about Sting and how they're a part of Sting's retirement match. It's like, well, your booking at the new Elite sucks. Literally, because you were relying on CM Punk to get heat on the Elite. You can't do that because CM Punk is not there anymore. Like I said, that's pretty much as bad as when Stephanie McMahon was a heel, constantly berating talents. And for the longest time, we knew none of those talents could put their hands on her. Because the only people who I think even got to wrestle her, that I can remember off the top of my head, Brie Bella and Ronda Rousey. During my time, I was a wrestling fan. But yet she would berate AJ Lee, Bayley, Mick Foley, getting into the men that she would berate as well. And none of them could do anything about it. How does that make you look a great heel? Don't get me wrong, Stephanie's been a great authority heel other times. But again, it's just the fact that you can't do that if there's no way for anybody to get their comeuppance. And then to be as desperate, like I said, a desperate move by Vince McMahon, 2019, the segment where the wild card rule was created. Remember that? He went out there and made himself look stupid because he showed up to try to restore order because SmackDown stars were going to be showing up on Raw. By the end of the segment, for no reason, he's saying, hey, I have an idea. Why don't we make a wild card rule where 3 superstars from the other brand in one night can come over to this show? I'm a genius. I'm a genius. I'm a genius. And it looked like him going, give me heat. I'm getting heat. I'm getting heat. Like he was making him the focal point. But then again, who was going to beat up Vince McMahon at the time? Who did anybody want to see beat up Vince McMahon at the time? Then Tony Khan's desperate moment was when he brought back Jack Perry. And the thing too was, when he brought back Jack Perry, there was no story. Because the last time we had seen Jack Perry was at All In 2023, Real Glass, Cry Me a River. And he comes back and he's happy to see him? Just for him to be the Pillsbury Doughboy, get poked in the belly with a freaking, microphone, and for him to get taken out by Jack Perry. That was literally a desperate move by Tony Khan. Because what, was Tony Khan going to wrestle Jack Perry? No! Like, I'm seeing the signs. I'm seeing Tony getting the ego, losing control of everything. And well, another difference too, Vince would blame other people. Tony doesn't even want to admit there's a problem. So, like, little stuff like that, it's showing that I don't think Tony Khan would ever fully be Vince McMahon, but he's definitely gaining more and more of his tendencies as AEW continues to suffer. As they continue to suffer from inconsistent booking. From, okay, your pay-per-views are going to knock it out of the park. You're a wrestling fan. You're going to let these people put on phenomenal wrestling matches. That your pay-per-views and your greedy $50 that you have for 12 pay-per-views a year that I don't even pay for all 12. I think this year alone I've paid for Revolution, Forbidden Door, and All In. I think that's the only 3 I've actually bought this year. Well, splitting it with my friend. I don't know if I'll do. I don't know if I'll do Full Gear because that's the weekend that my wife's getting induced. But yeah, and he wants us to pay $50 for every single pay-per-view. And when AEW goes to Max, we'll start streaming pay-per-views on Max in January. He still wants us to pay for the pay-per-views. Like, Tony, how much more greedy can you get? Especially also when you have like pay-per-views like All In and All Out 2 weeks apart from each other that have absolutely no build. And in those pay-per-views, you still focus on freaking CM Punk. The match Jack Perry had with Darby Allin, it was only a 5-minute match. I tell you, they only did that match just to do that Cry Me River spot. And they only gave Jack Perry a world title match at All Out because we were in Chicago. And he was going to get the most heat. Move the frick on from CM Punk. But yeah, like, again, he's not going to turn into CM. See, now I'm talking about him again. Ugh! I don't think Tony will ever fully be as bad as Vince McMahon. But his tendencies are definitely showing more signs of him becoming the one thing that he despises. The one thing, he's basically becoming his own enemy. That's what Tony Khan is becoming. If he does not straighten up, if he does not just admit there's a problem, hire a crew to help him let go of Ring of Honor, we could maybe see something get restored to AEW. Because right now, I'm sorry, they are hanging on by a thread. Pay-per-views are great. Weekly shows suck. I am glad that I just watched Dynamite. I don't watch Rampage. I don't watch Collision. I am not going to watch Shockwave whenever that comes out. I keep hearing that's happening, and Rampage is getting canceled. But I'm sorry. Like, this doesn't need to happen. Like, again, no business is perfect. Problems are going to happen. Competition is going to happen. Instead of either hiding you have a problem and selling for second best, or whining about people who are doing the tendencies you were doing years ago, do something about it. Do something about it. And be you. Don't become your enemy. Be you. That was literally like off the chart, winged, no script. My thoughts on, is Tony Khan becoming Vince McMahon? What do you guys think? Is Tony Khan gaining more and more Vince McMahon tendencies? Leave guys' thoughts down in the comment section below. Be sure also, as always, to slap a like on the video and subscribe for more content on my channel. Follow me on Twitter as well at The Club with the Man 93. You can also follow me on TikTok and Instagram at The Club with the Man 1993. And until then, guys, I'm checking out. I'll catch you guys all later. Have a great rest of your day, and do not forget, in order to be superior to the man, you've got to be the man. And for I am the man himself. And that is not just an opinion, my friends. That is a fact of life. Yeah!